Well, welcome to Mom Talk, where we talk about the
Oh,
joys, the struggles, tips for moms, mompreneurs, dealing with businesses, working, having kids, how we do it all. And so today we have Nikie Walker. And so I've heard a little bit about her story, and I'm so excited to share it with you. And so go ahead and introduce yourself, Nikie. Tell us a little bit about your family and about life right now, how it looks for you.
yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Maureen, I really appreciate you reaching out.
Oh,
My name
yeah.
is Nikie Walker. As you and I spoke previously before, I am the mother of two very young children, a 2-year-old and 1-year-old. He just turned one. And I'm an older mom. I didn't enter into the journey of motherhood until I was about 47. So, and there I may get some people may have, I'm sure people have opinions on that, but that was the journey that happened for my husband and myself. And
Yeah,
so,
it's different for everybody.
yeah, everybody's different. So, and I do know too that, so let me back up a little bit. So my husband and I met in 99, 2000. We dated
Mhm.
for 3 years. I thought he was the love of my life. Then I thought I was going to marry him and everything was going to be hunky dory. And then we broke up. All this,
Mhm.
it was probably leading up a little bit more, but I was too in love and naive and stupid to know any better. And so then he went and did his thing. He moved to Ohio. I went and did my thing and sowed some wild oats. I was very heartbroken. And then in 2010, I lost my job that I had been with the company for almost 15 years.
Wow.
And so I moved back to my hometown back in Western Kentucky, and I just thought it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Like it just was the worst thing. And
Right.
so I was trying to reconcile all that. I moved back in with my parents,
Yeah.
at 35 years. I mean, it was just very difficult time for me.
Mhm.
But I was able to save for a home. I bought my first home. And then I was working for the family business, and all of that culminated into the position where I am now. So
Right.
my
Okay.
husband came back into the fold in 2013. He just kind of
Mhm.
called me out of the blue and said all the things that a woman wants to hear when their heart is broken, about how I never should have broken up with you and
Right.
thought about you all these years and blah, blah, all the things that we want to hear.
Right.
So as that journey started to unfold, um,
Mhm.
we got we he moved back to my part of the state
Mhm.
for a smaller community, and actually where I live is a little big for him, and it's not that big. And so but
Okay.
he came here, and actually in 2014 for my 40th birthday I got admitted to the hospital, and
Wow.
I had contracted necrotizing fasciitis, which is the flu
Okay.
disease, and
Right.
actually saved my life because he was down negotiating with the hospital for
Mhm.
his for a position as a physician, and he was sit vigil by my bed. I don't know why
Right.
he'll tell you it was for the pudding and Sprite.
Right.
Um, at one point they didn't really know what to do, and he said, well, maybe you should do X, Y, and Z. Maybe you should re-image her. And as soon as they did that, they took me to emergency surgery. So he actually saved my life.
Wow.
And I tell him all the time that he saved my life more than one in one way. So
Exactly.
I was very ultra involved with my family because I worked for them. We literally live 30 seconds. I mean, we can walk to each other's homes.
Yeah.
And so I was um, I didn't have any life for myself. Why would I need to?
Okay.
I had no family.
Yeah.
I had no extracurricular activities. Why wouldn't I be hyper involved with my family, right?
Mhm.
So I say he saved my life in more than one ways. And
Right.
so fast forward 7 years,
Mhm.
he has a job that he loves. I went back and obtained my doctorate.
Okay.
While I was finishing my degree, uh,
Mhm.
I was the office manager, the project manager for my sister's optometric practice. And so
Okay.
I thought, well, although practice managers are vitally important to an
Yeah.
organization, they take a lot of crap, right?
Right, right.
I said with the doctorate, I don't necessarily want to continue in that position. So
Mhm.
I actually started a consulting business, an HR consulting business, because my master's is in HR.
Okay.
And then, so that started in October of
Yeah.
2023.
Right.
My daughter was 6 months old.
Okay.
And then in January, no, is that right? No, 2022. And then
Mhm.
in January of 2023, I got a full-time teaching position with our local university in their business department. And now I am division chair of it as well for the School of Business.
Okay. And are you still doing your consulting?
I am. I am.
Okay.
So lecturing and actually, just HR consulting for small to mid-sized businesses is
Mhm.
what I do. Um, and so, that's kind of where we are right now.
Right. Wow. Okay. And so I see like how it was like at one point you were like all family and you didn't have anything for yourself. And now it seems like you have just like blossomed and you have like this amazing like ecosystem for you and your little family.
I do. And it's pretty wild actually, because, as the oldest of four,
Mhm.
I specifically remember as a child saying, well, if there's going to be a black sheep in the family, I want it to be me, because I want people to flourish. I want people to grow. I want people to, be
Yeah.
successful, right? So I never allowed myself the opportunity to experience any of those really joyous moments and revel in
Okay.
my own success, right? So,
Right. Right. Okay.
and so I was just very integrated into my family.
Right.
And it was really too much, right? Like
Right.
my parents live one house down. My sister and her family live across the street. I
Right.
worked for them. I took care of her children exclusively until they were,
Right.
you know, I mean, they're age 17 to 7.
Yeah.
So, I mean, up until I got a new position, the younger two had never had a babysitter other than me.
Right.
Maybe the older two too. Anyway, so, uh, getting my own life, which is what I did, has actually been
Yeah.
the greatest probably byproduct out of this whole event. And
Wow. Okay.
one of the things, but I'm grateful for all the experiences I have, because
Of
when I first
course.
started out, I was exclusive to consulting optometrists, because she's an optometrist.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
I knew the language, I knew the lingo, I knew what it's like
Exactly.
when people check in and what you need for the lanes and what you need, all this, right?
Uh-huh.
And now that I've been into it almost, well, 2.5 years, I really have branched out a little bit more. And now
Right.
that I'm teaching, I'm able to marry my educational background with my educational experience, with my work experience in
Right.
leadership training and how to have difficult conversations. And I've been able to marry all these things
Yeah.
that I wouldn't had I not taken this journey.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. All of that comes together. Good, bad. We learn from our
Absolutely.
failures, mistakes, the good, the bad, every experience that we've had. It comes together for who we are today. And yeah, it just makes us better for, everything we've gone through. Well, how do you, so I know as an older mom, so how do you find it, so now you have like you're doing the teaching, you have your consulting business, and now you have two young kids. So
Yeah.
how are you dealing with all that? How do you
Well,
balance?
I think communication with your partner is extremely
Oh,
important.
yeah.
Um, and so I have an amazing husband, number one. Let me just say that up front. He is a phenomenal father. He is a phenomenal partner. And so, a lot of times I give this analogy that I'm like, I have all these crazy ideas all the time. He says I'm on a level 10 at all times, and he's on a 4 or 5. I'm
Yeah.
like, "That seems about right." But, all, almost 100% of the time, he just like takes my hand and says, let's go, let's do whatever you want to
Yeah.
do, whatever, we got it. So
Awesome.
I'm very, very grateful in that. And whenever I say, oh, I really want another kid, he's like, no. So he like brings me when I need to as well, right? So um but I think communication with your partner is very important, because I was just
Mhm.
having this conversation the other day with another group of people, and I'm
Mhm.
like, men in particular don't
Mhm.
realize the mental load that mothers carry. They have
Mhm.
they just they go to bed and they're like, see you in the morning. And I'm like,
Right.
that's not what we do. Like we sit
Right.
there and think, when's their doctor's appointment? And oh,
Right.
his birthday's coming up. I need to get first year pictures. And what about the cake? And oh, my daughter's birthday is coming up in 3 months from now. I got to start thinking about that. And
Right.
what about the Christmas outfits and Christmas pictures and breakfast with Santa? All these things that we have this running ticker tape in our head of what needs to be checked off next, right? Oh, we got to get
Right.
the tax stuff together. Oh, the car start, like so.
Right.
A lot of conversations with him about how, whether it's a shared list that we have on our phone, like these are the
Right.
things that have to be done. These are the
Mhm.
immediate things that have to be done. These are the things in the future that need to be done. Or just a conversation like, hey, first of all, I shouldn't have to ask for help all the time. Like you
Right.
should,
Right.
I need
Yeah.
just do it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so, and it's not that he's a terrible person.
Right.
It's just his brain doesn't work that way, right?
Right.
For a long time, I would be making all these meals, like just on Sunday, just cooking myself to death,
Yeah.
and nothing would be eaten. And I'm like, why am I killing myself doing this?
Mhm.
And then I realized that he is a person that likes 5 meals. That's it. So me trying, and I like variety. I like lots of variety. I get bored of
Okay.
it over and over again. So
Right.
even after 7 years of marriage, we're still learning each other, right? It's
Oh
took
gosh,
7 years to be like, okay, he does not like, you know, exotic things. And
I mean,
so
I've literally cooked something. We've been married for 28 years. I literally cooked something the other night and I was like, oh, do you not like it? He was like, I don't like spinach. And I was like, what?
exactly, exactly,
Why am
exactly.
I just now learning this?
Right. And so he's trying to be nice by not saying anything. And I get insulted when it goes to waste. So like
Right.
communication is vitally important
Yeah,
for us to have the dreams that we want and to be able
definitely.
to, keep things going.
Yeah.
Um, he's said to me many times, and finally I said, that ticks me off. He would be like, I just have to realize that you're a busy person. I was like,
Yeah.
do you think I'm playing like Candy Crush over here or gambling? No, I'm like, I, I'm I'm figuring all this stuff out, right? So,
Yeah.
um, figuring that out and getting in the groove of, and again, raising children too. Like,
Mhm.
even though we have the same basic beliefs, we
Right.
want them to be kind and generous and
Right.
charitable and real be grateful for what they have. And he and
Right.
I are very big on giving back to our community. I've been on medical missions all over the world.
Yeah.
Being involved in our community is vitally important to both of us. It's kind of built into both of our DNAs. And
Hmm.
so, but like, our daughter, and this is just part of how it happened, but like, she doesn't like to sleep by herself. She's almost 3 years old. But
Hmm. Yeah.
the problem is, whenever she was born, the bedrooms were like all the way across the house and upstairs, because our house, there's the original part of the house, and then
Right.
original owners just kept building on it. So like the master bedroom and I'm like, there's no way that my little sweet little baby is going to sleep upstairs by herself in front of the front door. Heck no.
Right.
And so she slept in our room and
Right.
in her crib. And then she's like,
Mhm.
this crib's stupid. I'm not sleeping.
Yeah.
She slept. And so we're working on that. But like, his sweet baby girl,
Yeah.
doesn't want to, but our son, we're like, no, we're not doing that. Like, he's getting his own bed, he's sleeping in his bed, he's getting his own room.
Yeah.
We eventually converted, and they were upstairs, and
Yeah.
the my beautiful sewing room that had built in
Mhm.
everything. We
Yeah.
tore it all down and made one.
Right.
So it's much more kid conducive, and you know what, that's okay. People are like, oh, you're ever gonna sew again? I'm like, well, yeah, I will, but
Hmm.
now's not the time, right? And so
Yeah.
life changes and ebbs and flows,
Yeah.
and things that you once were deeply involved with, life
Yeah.
changes, and that's okay.
Yeah. And it might be on the kitchen table or, you know, wherever it fits in at the moment. If if I decide to get to do that. But yeah, I totally understand. And I think I mean, of course, you like learn things with the first child
Absolutely.
and, but also, you also like, I know like because I have a grandchild now. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh wow, like I see like my kids grew up so fast. And, as everybody always tells you, and you're like, I feel like the days are so slow sometimes, right? You hear that saying, the
Yeah,
day the days are so slow, but the years go by fast. And it really is true. But
it really
you know,
is.
I look at him and I'm like, wow, if I wish that I would have
Cherish
just
the moments more.
slowed down in some of those moments with them that I can now cherish with him because I've been through it.
Right.
And so I think when people are like, oh, grandchildren are just so different, it's because you've been through it and now, it's like the whole thing. If you knew when you were
Hindsight's
a
20/20.
teenager what you know now when you're 50,
Right.
right? You wouldn't have made all those mistakes. But then again, you wouldn't have all the
Experience.
experience and all
When
of that.
my
But
son tries to sneak out in the middle of the night because he's going to be in a ringtail reader, I'm going to be like, so my
yeah.
dad, not to call my sister out, but I was good as gold. I was the oldest. I was an angel. But my sister, she had some fun times in high school, let me tell you. But she would like sneak out of her bedroom all the time. And so
Yeah.
tip to all the moms out and dads out there, he put bird seed on her windowsill so
Oh,
that
mm,
she didn't notice because she
right.
spent the night trying to get out without. And so when he went back the next morning, he would see that the bird seed wasn't there. And so
He could definitely tell.
it's a little pro tip from my dad.
Right? I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Well, what have some of the struggles been having your babies, trying to do it all, run your business and do, teach and run the house and
It's a balance of what I would need to fulfill myself as a woman, as um an ambitious woman, which can
Mhm.
sometimes sound like a dirty word to some people,
No,
and
yeah.
fulfill my life's goals, but
Yeah.
also be a good mom, right?
Yeah.
And be present
Mhm.
for my children. And that's the balance. That is a real struggle. And I
Mhm.
want to be, because I get fulfillment from both. But I also know that I'm one of these moms that needs a job. I need a job. Like
Mhm.
being home, first of all, if I had a remote job, no, that would not work for me. I put the extra in extrovert. Like I need people. And so uh, I know that that would not work for me. So I need a job. But then you're like, I want to be with my children. And
Right.
whenever you drop them off at daycare and they're hysterical, that like tears at my soul. Right.
Right.
So finding that balance of what fulfills me as a person and a woman and a provider, and
Mhm.
also fulfill my role as a mother, which is also extremely fulfilling for me. And
Yeah.
really my destiny probably in this life. So
Yeah.
finding that balance. And that
So do you
takes,
think you've figured that out yet? I mean, I think
well,
that
I
could be
think it also
something.
depends on your kids, right? Like
Yeah.
they need you more times and others, and so it's all about, I think part of being a mother is being flexible.
Mhm.
And so finding that balance, it's not always going to be the same balance, right? Like
Exactly.
your
Yeah.
kids are going to need you 80% of the time sometime, and then your work will get 20%. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I have an employer who is extremely understanding.
Yeah.
So like Monday was the first day of classes. Well, my daughter had a terrible night and was sick all night. And so she
Yeah.
came to school with me.
Right.
Now she lived her best life because she got to sit in mama's office and watch
Exactly.
her iPad and go to class with me and, strut
Right.
around campus like she owned it. So,
Right.
but I'm fortunate that I was able to do that. Right.
Yeah.
So finding that balance is important, but I think people misinterpret the word balance, meaning that it's
Right.
always 50/50, and it's
It's
not.
always the same. Right.
It's
Yeah.
not always the same, and it's
Mhm.
going to ebb and flow, right? And so
Exactly.
that is, I think, probably the biggest takeaway that you need to take as a mom, being wanting to fulfill your personal goals and fulfill the role of being a wonderful mother, is that balance. It's always
Mhm.
going to be 100%, but it's not always going to be the same split.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I love how
And
you
that's
say that.
okay. That is okay. We don't
Right.
need to feel badly about not being, like that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
One of the things that I told my husband when we first got married, like a marriage is not 50-50. It's just
Hmm.
not. You're going to need more time you're going to need more sometimes, and I'm going to need more sometimes. So
Right.
you're going to have to give the kids baths 5 nights a week, maybe, or maybe I'll have to put them to bed 5 nights a week. So, uh, understanding that your support system, is not always going to be 50-50. It's just not.
Right.
And so is motherhood and balancing it all.
Right. Yeah. I think the problem comes if you're struggling with, if it's always off and, you're not satisfied with it,
Yeah.
then you need to make some changes. But
Exactly.
yeah,
And
understanding.
being an advocate for yourself,
Yeah.
we as women are not taught that that's okay. We're not just not,
Right.
especially from my generation. Now,
Oh,
as
yeah.
I see the next generations coming up, especially working in college,
Uh-huh.
it's very different. It is
Oh
very
gosh. Yeah.
so, the generation here that we have near now, mental health, like they're gonna let it out. They're gonna say,
Oh, yeah.
this is what's going on. I need this, this, and this. Whereas my generation, first of all, you didn't talk about that.
What was mental health? We
No, it
didn't
didn't
even know
exist.
or
And if
talk
you
about it.
had, there's a joke in the South about how you don't ask if you have a crazy person in your house. You just ask what side they're on, right? So
Yeah.
like you don't it was a joke. It wasn't something to be taken seriously. And so um the no, as I say, the pendulum swings, and we
Mhm.
haven't found the middle ground yet, because
Right.
in my generation it was all the way to the left, and in
Mhm.
this generation some things need to be with a professional. not
Yeah.
not like so. And we society will eventually find the middle ground, I think. But
Yeah, I do too.
I'm happy to see that they are willing to at least say, I need help.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's huge. I think
I think so
they're
too.
definitely talking about it
I agree.
a lot more than Gen X.
Exactly.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so give us your best tip.
Give us your best tip. Well, first of all, and all moms out there will know this. What works with one child is not going to work for another.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Fun. And I think too, we try so hard when we have multiple children to make everything even, right? Everything has to
Oh.
be even. And even though I understand that, because we don't want our children to feel slighted, or, that we have a favorite, but
Mhm.
I think you need to know your child and what works best for them. One of the things I talk about in a lot of things that I talk about but specifically with my students, is about incentive programs for employees, right?
Right.
And the type of leader that you are in your organization. And I'm like,
Mhm.
hey, you're not the same leader with every single employee. Number one,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
same incentive that works for the same employee it's not going to be across the board. So I tease them, and I'm always like, now, if I gave you Joanne's gift card, which is a fabric store, if I gave you
Right.
Joanne's gift card for getting an A in this class, and even though it's $100, I was like, who's going to incentivize around here? And they're like, probably not. And I was like,
Yeah.
exactly. So you need to find what works for your kids, and that
Right.
can be hard, especially in the morning, and you're rushing, and everybody's crying, and you're like, I got a meeting at 8 o'clock. I got to get out the door. So um I think working with what works with each kid is
Mhm.
going to be beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's great because we try to just kind of put them in a box and be like, no,
Or
this
this
is
is the standard. This is what we do. Everybody sleeps at 2 o'clock, and everybody gets up at
yeah.
3:30, and we eat at 6. And so like,
Yeah.
and things were very rigid when I was a kid, right? So
Yeah.
like that's what happened. You don't like turnips and roast beef? Too bad, so sad, right?
Yeah.
So I do remember coming home from school. I don't like roast beef. I don't like roast. I don't like pot roast. I can't stand it. I never have. And to this day, I don't like it. If
Yeah.
that's dinner, I'll say I'll bring my Chick-fil-A. I don't know, right?
Right.
But I remember coming home from school and smelling the pot roast in the crock pot, and knowing that I was going to go hungry that night.
Yeah.
Like, I can't stand
Yeah.
it. And everybody would be like, you can eat the carrots and potatoes. I'm like, it tastes just like the pot roast.
Right. Everything in the pot tastes the same.
So, um, you know, and I think flexibility, I think that's just
Yeah.
important in your job,
Flexibility. Yeah.
your partner, and with your kids. You just got
I
to be
love it. Yeah. I mean, I love some points that you said, like communication with,
Mhm.
with your spouse, that I think that's huge. And the flexibility
And
and
some people may think this is the easy way out, but sometimes when things are really hard for me to say, because I didn't grow up in the best communicatively house, right? I'll text it to him and be like, look, this is why I feel the way that I feel. If it's hard
yeah.
for me to say, I and then we maybe can like open the door to a
I
conversation.
was going to say, I think even if you have a hard time starting the conversation and you text it, that will probably open up a
Exactly.
conversation.
And there's been many times that he said, thank you for telling me that. Thank you. And now
Yeah.
I understand better. So
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, we used to write notes, right? That's how we
exactly.
communicated.
Exactly. Exactly. And so, I think conversation is hard,
Yeah.
especially with that. Even though you're your intimate partner, they didn't grow up with you. They don't know what life was really like in your house, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes, even though we've been together, 10 years, but
Yeah.
we're still learning.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Well, thank you so
You're
much. I
welcome.
really, really enjoyed your conversation and your tips, and learning about your story. And it was just great to have you on, really.
Well, thank you
And
so
that you
much. I appreciate it.
took time out of your busy day, because I'm sure you sound like a busy, busy lady.
Yeah, and sometimes and people tell me that, like students say that or whatever, and it kind of like makes me a little upset because I'm like, I'm here for you all. Like, I don't
Yeah,
want you to think that I'm so busy that I can't be here for you. So thank you for
exactly.
taking time out of your day to speak with me, and good luck with everything.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome.